let's normalize how exhausted we can feel sometimes. Juggling all the things, work, family, the home, the kids' events, the kids' extracurriculars, your own health and wellness, your own business, like all of it, it's a lot. We're tired because we're doing a lot. Period, my love. There's 51,000 valid reasons why you feel tired. I want us to default to, I'm tired. That's a normal freaking experience for a mom.
Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high-achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life-altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod.
Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod, where we normalize normal and find freedom through a life unperfected. Well, hello there, my friend. My name is Brooke Jean, and I am your host of the Unperfected Pod. And I am coming at you this week looking all sorts of tired and exhausted because I consciously chose to have a lot of fun this last weekend. And so this morning, I was thinking about what I wanted to share on the podcast this week. And let me back up just a little bit, because if this isn't just like a working mom struggle, I don't know what is. First, I had someone on the books this morning to interview them for the podcast, which I cannot wait to have her on the show. But she reached out to me last night, and of course, her sweet baby has a fever. She's going to have to keep her home from daycare, which she's now going to have to rearrange her entire day. And boy, don't you know how much I understand that. And that is one of the things that I love about working with moms, supporting moms. It's like, we get it, right? Like, you don't need to feel bad about rescheduling with me, because I'm not going to feel bad about rescheduling with you, right? Like, we understand, we stand in solidarity, honey. These kids, they just get sick actually at the most inopportune times. We have to rearrange our day that has meetings we were most excited about. Like, it is a constant balancing act or a juggling act, isn't it? So anyways, no problem. We're going to reschedule. Cannot wait to have her on the show. And so what that meant was this morning, I was like, I'm going to do a solo cast. Well, I'm tired. This past weekend, my husband and I celebrated our anniversary. We went up to Crested Butte, Colorado, and we just had a beautiful, romantic getaway, the two of us. And yeah, I consciously chose to overdo it. Okay. We overindulged in the most delicious food and beverages. We went on a hike. We walked to and from everywhere. We had a beautiful place where we stayed. I went swimming. I did a cold plunge. We played games. We talked. We caught up. Like, we really had to squeeze a lot into a 2-day trip, because that's another hashtag mom problem, right? We squeeze a lot in to a short period of time because we got to do what we got to do. So Crescent View, Colorado, the drive back to Denver after picking up my daughter was going to be about 5.5 hours. And then we were going to have to drop our daughter off for a play date because we got tickets to the Bronco Packer game. For those of you that don't know, my husband, Tony, he's from Wisconsin. We met at Target 19 years ago, fell in love, and he is a diehard Packer fan. So for our anniversary, I surprised him and I got us these Bronco Packer tickets. But you know, I was freaking exhausted Sunday. And we had to drive 5.5 hours and then go to this game. But I am so glad we did, because we had an absolute blast. It's not something that's going to happen all the time. And so I woke up this morning feeling like I got hit by a bus. Okay. I'm like still a little hungover. I'm puffy as shit. I'm about to start my period. I have a fever blister on my face. Like, what more can happen? Literally, my right eye is twitching right now as I'm saying this. I don't even know why, probably just exhausted. And then it hit me. The topic for the podcast today is why am I so freaking tired all the time? And so, what are we going to do on the podcast? We're going to normalize the wide range of freaking normal. And we're going to talk about conscious, like being consciously tired versus unconsciously tired. And then, of course, I'm going to share some things with you, some tips to put in your tool belt for how to help yourself feel more rested, get more sleep, and all that jazz. So, first things first, let's normalize how exhausted we can feel sometimes. Okay. Juggling all the things work, family, the home, the kids' events, the kids' extracurriculars, your own health and wellness, your own business, like all of it, it's a lot. So this mom gig is hard. We're tired because we're doing a lot. Okay, that's the hashtag tweetable moment. We're tired because we're doing a lot. Period, my love. So if you are running on fumes today, maybe because you're in the newborn phase and you're waking up every 3 hours and you are literally so exhausted you can't see straight, or maybe you're coming off a really fun weekend like me, or maybe your daughter came into your bed last night. Well, also something that happened to us. Maybe you're tired because you had to travel for a soccer tournament and you got home late last night and you had to get up early this morning for work. Maybe you're tired because you're coming down with something or on your period. Maybe you're tired because you have a huge week ahead of you. There's 51,000 valid reasons why you feel tired. Okay. So I want us not to default to what am I doing wrong that I'm so tired, or what's wrong with me that I'm so tired. I want us to default to, this goes back to reprogramming your subconscious core beliefs. I want us to default to, I'm tired, and that's a normal experience for a mother. Okay. That's a normal freaking experience for a mom. You're not getting it wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, are there things that are going to make you more tired? Absolutely. There are conditions, there's, health issues, there's mental health struggles, there's energy imbalances, there's shit going on in the world that's really heavy right now. There is a lot going on. There's diet stuff, there's movement, right? I'm not going to be the expert on that in this episode, or really ever. I'm not an expert on any of that stuff. I just share what the heck I'm doing and what might help me and what might help you. But I want to normalize feeling tired all the time and constantly thinking something is wrong with you because you're tired all the time. The next thing I want to talk about is the difference between being consciously tired or exhausted and unconsciously, because those are two very important distinctions. Okay. So, like I said this morning, I'm exhausted. I feel old. I feel like an elephant. I feel slow. Like nothing is operating properly. We are not running on all cylinders today. Why? Because I consciously chose to overexert myself all weekend long. I had a very busy week at work. I've been intentionally leveling up at work. That's very conscious. Okay. I'm getting out more. I'm networking more. I'm speaking in front of people more. I'm pouring into the podcast. I'm pouring into my clients. I'm growing the business. Like I am intentionally pouring into my business because I always do in the fall because I downscale during the summer when my daughter doesn't have school. So I'm tired from that. And then I chose to get out of town and do a quick little getaway that ended with a football game. Okay. But I chose those things, and they're in alignment with the person I'm becoming, the person I want to be, and the life that I want to create. My three core values are purpose, pleasure, and playfulness. And that is what I run everything through when I'm determining, am I going to exert my precious jewels, time, energy, and sanity on that? Is it in alignment with purpose or pleasure or playfulness? If it's not, it's a hell no. And so when I talk about you being conscious versus unconsciously tired, I want you to run your energetic investments through the filter of your core values. If you don't know what your core values are, you can go to Amazon and get the life compass cards. That's a little exercise you can go through to get clear on what your values are. But, getting away for the weekend and spending that time reconnecting with my partner, yeah, that is a core value. That is something that I'm very mindful about these days. Okay. Being out in nature and being in the beauty of the Colorado mountains and enjoying the indulgences of good food and good wine, that's pleasure for me. And then playfulness is just like who the hell I am all day, every day. I'm going to be cracking jokes. Me and my husband are going to be laughing. We're going to be making fun of each other and things in the world. We're just going to bring that playful energy because that's who I am. Okay. So I chose to invest, even though I knew it was an overinvestment. So today I'm consciously exhausted. Now, where we get into trouble, my loves, is where we are unconsciously overextending ourselves, where we are saying yes to all the things when they're not in alignment with our values, when we're overscheduling ourselves and there's no time to breathe in between engagements, where we are people pleasing our way through life. And we wake up one day in total burnout because we're trying to be all the things to all the people. And that is problematic because we are not an unlimited tank of gas. We do not have an unlimited tank of time, energy, and sanity. We need to be mindful how we spend that shit. You know what I'm saying? Mindful and intentional. So I want you to start paying attention to where am I extending and investing in my energy? And are those spaces and places that are in alignment with my values, the who I am, the who I'm becoming, and the life that I am busy co creating? And if they are not, then you guys start setting some boundaries, honey. Some boundaries. Boundaries is short for boundaries, okay? It's my family's take on boundaries. So if it's not a full body yes, it's a no. And we need spaciousness, okay? This is like tip number one and tip number two. It's like tip number one is looking at where you are unconsciously bleeding your time, energy, and sanity because that's making you exhausted. Tip number two is to start to set some boundaries around that stuff. If it's not a full body yes, it's a no. If it's not in alignment with my values, it's a no. Then we also need to create some spaciousness in between things. No more rushing from one thing to the next, 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 to then be overstimulated, to then not ever discharge that energy, stress, and cortisol, to then disrupt your sleep all night, start doing homework mentally in your brain while you're trying to sleep, to then wake up even more exhausted the next day. Anybody familiar with that cycle? Okay, no shame, no shame. But that's the cycle, right? Is we're just giving of ourselves all day, every day, rushing from one thing to the next, never really emptying out energetically or moving that stress through our body, not checking in on ourselves, not having mini charging stations or mini pauses. And it's like we're physically exhausted when it's time to go to bed, but we haven't had any time to mentally or emotionally process anything. And so, guess what? Our mind and body wants to get busy doing that overnight while we're sleeping. And so, what we want to do is we want to give ourselves that spaciousness to process mentally and emotionally as things come through us throughout the day. So we can set it aside to fully engage in restful sleep. Because here's the other truth bomb. Not only is this gig of momming hard, and that's why we're exhausted, not only is it really hard because a bunch of us are people pleasers saying yes to everything and burning ourselves out, but we're also truly not getting enough sleep. Women need 8 to 10 hours of sound sleep. And I'm willing to bet that way less than half of us are getting that. Okay. We need about 6 REM cycles a night. No, we're probably getting about 2. And so we are exhausted because we're doing a lot and we're not getting good quality sound sleep. So, what are some things that we can do to improve our sleep quality? The biggest one is going to be sleep hygiene, which is essentially a wind down routine. If you guys have been hanging with me for a while, you know I talk about good sleep hygiene. You know I'm passionate about rituals, my morning ritual, my midday ritual, and my evening ritual. These are all things that set me up throughout the day to be able to try and get some better rest at night. Does it always work? No. Sometimes I wake up and I just process every possible thought, or it's like, do you ever have those nights where you just download every single thing. Every like passable thought you've ever had, it's like, oh yeah, remember that and remember that. Oh yeah, I was gonna do that. And oh yeah, about that. And that was interesting that my uncle said that. And it's like thousands of things. And you're just like, why in the heck am I even thinking about this? I have one of those nights like once a month where I literally process just unnecessary garbage all night long. But I've normalized it now and I don't try to psychoanalyze myself or freak out. It's just like what I do. So, a good sleep hygiene looks like number one, waking up and going to bed at the same time every night. We can train our brain to sleep just like we can train our bicep muscle to grow, just like we can train, our dogs to listen, just like we can train our bodies for whatever the hell you're training for, a marathon or whatever. Like we can train our minds to sleep. But it starts with going to bed and waking up at the same time, or in just generally the same time every day. Then you want a good wind down period. Okay. So I know how hard this is with kids, but if you get your kids down, right? Let's say you get them down at 8:30 or 9 or whatever. Every family is different. This is not about judging that. But then it's like, what are you doing? At that point, I want you to start to do things that really truly wind you down, like having a hot tea and journaling, stretching, doing red light therapy, yoga, sleep meditation, yoga nidra, journaling, reading a book, taking a bath, listening to beautiful, relaxing music, snuggling your dog, snuggling your partner, things like that. But what are we doing instead? Well, this is what I've been doing lately. I've been plopping into bed and turning my back to my partner and going through the talks, as he likes to call them, the TikToks. Yeah. And is that helping me? No, it's not. Okay. When I was getting the best sleep of my life, I had the best sleep hygiene and also I wasn't drinking. Drinking alcohol definitely fucks with our sleep. I know nobody likes that. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to subscribe to that. But let me just tell you this right now, I'm not alcohol free. So that's another reason why I'm getting shitty sleep right now, but I'm going to own that and I'm going to name that because it's true. If you just have 2 drinks, 2 beers, 2 glasses of wine, 2 drinks, you're going to go from 6 REM sleep cycles down to 2 automatically. And then you're in sleep deprivation. So 2 alcoholic drinks and you're cutting out 4 sleep cycles. And alcohol stays in your body for 3 to 4 days. So if you're only having 2 drinks every 3rd or 4th day, you are always living in that sleep deprivation. And hello, that's like all of us. Raise your hand if that applies to you. This queen is in a constant sleep deprivation. But earlier in the year, when I took 5 months off of drinking, it took a little time. But once my body was truly used to that, I was getting the best, most restful sleep. So if you really want that really good, deep, juicy sleep, you've got to have good sleep hygiene. You got to remove the alcohol. You can't be eating the snacks right before bed. You can't be doing anything that gives you a cortisol shot right before bed, like the news or social media or stressing about your work day or looking at your work emails. You really have to protect your mind, body, and spirit. Okay. So whatever hour of night it is, start a wind down ritual and engage in 1 to 3 activities that truly are relaxing to you. I shared a few with you that I love, but you pick and choose the ones that you look forward to. Okay. Anytime you want to make a change in your life, like improving your rest and your sleep, you got to choose just like one thing that you actually would enjoy doing, that you find the benefit in. It feels good. Do it for 30 days, make it a habit, and then layer in another one. So if you love to stretch, just start stretching and going to bed at the same time every night. If you love to journal, just start journaling and go to bed at the same time every night. If you love yoga nidra, just do yoga nidra. Okay. Don't do all the things and don't do the things I'm doing that don't feel good to you. Okay. If you hate stretching, let's not force ourselves to do something we hate to do. But I love stretching while listening to chill music with my red light therapy. And that is just like such a juicy wind down for me. I also take a bath or go on a walk from 6:30 to 7:30 before that. So anyways, we want to get some sleep hygiene going. All right. So a couple more tips that I want to leave you. I have no idea what number I'm on, so I'm not going to number them anymore because that's just silly. And I've got about 2 brain cells barely firing with each other today. Yoga nidra during the day. I've shared this with you guys too. I cannot emphasize this enough. When Chloe was a newborn or just a baby, well, she's actually never been a great sleeper. Her brain is always going. And that's just an interesting thing. My oldest was such a heavy sleeper and my youngest is such a light sleeper. But anyways, we didn't get good sleep for a long time. And I was really starting to lose my marbles and I had postpartum depression and anxiety. I just had a whole slew of mental health issues going on. And I think many of them were triggered from the lack of sleep. So I was just getting to this point of I physically am not going to make it through the day. And then I had heard about this yoga nidra. And I thought, well, I don't have the energy to do yoga. I'm literally fucking hanging on by a thread over here. Okay, well, it's not physical movement. There's more to yoga than vinyasa. I didn't know that either. And yoga nidra is really just a guided, restful meditation. You just lay your fanny down, you listen to it, it guides you through what to do. And it really just has you kind of map all of these body parts. And that mapping that's happening in the brain gives you the same rest as 3 hours of your most restful sleep. So I started doing this every afternoon to get me through what I call second shift of motherhood. And it would truly be the thing that would be a mini charge to give me the fuel that I needed to get through the second half of the day. So yoga nidra, it's a 10 or 20, 30-minute guided meditation. Do it midway through your day and you're going to feel like you took a 3-hour nap. I'm a terrible napper. I can't actually fall asleep. And if I do, I wake up in a real weird mental place. I don't feel good. I don't feel rested. It's I don't know. I'm not wired to nap during the day, but I am wired, honey, to yoga nidra during the day. And so that's my midday ritual. As many days as possible is that 10 or 20 or 30-minute yoga nidra. Now, my favorite yoga nidra is on the Mindful Mamas app, but that one costs money. You can just go to Insight Timer, download that app for free. There's all sorts of free yoga and meditations on there, and just search bar yoga nidra. You can also get yoga nidra on YouTube. But seriously, if you are a mother, you are exhausted, get yourself some yoga nidra. You can do it right before bed. You can do it midday. You can do it whenever the hell you want. But because I've got a pretty expansive evening ritual, I do my yoga nidra early afternoon to help me get through second shift of working mom life. I also want to remind you that how you start the day sets the tone for the day. So start your day with a charging station. So going back to what I was saying earlier is we are not an unlimited tank of gas. So we need to be mindful of how much energy we're expending throughout the day. And so I want you starting your day really plugged into energy and really with a full tank of gas. And so you don't want to be looking at that phone first thing in the morning because that's going to deplete you. You want to do something that's actually going to pour into yourself. My morning ritual, hot lemon water, meditation, and journal or create. Also a little bit of stretching, maybe some sunlight therapy. I mean, that's on an ideal day. Some days I do all of that. Some days I can't do a damn thing. I don't shame myself. I just get back on the program when I can. But I start my day charging my battery. Then throughout the day, I have these mini pauses, these mini charging stations where I might go outside and face the sun, or sit on my earthing mat, or do a yoga nidra, or go on a short walk after lunch. I'm doing all of these things to help myself stay energized throughout the day. Also, I want to remind you of the importance of closing your stress cycle. Because one of the reasons that we're waking up in the middle of the night with a jolt of cortisol is because we did not discharge the stress in our body. We did not discharge the biological response to all of the shit we absorbed throughout the day, aka the hormonal surplus. So what is the most efficient way to discharge that out of your body? 20 minutes of movement. A 20-minute brisk walk will do it. So if you are starting your day with a morning ritual and then you're closing your stress cycle with a 20-minute walk and you're doing a yoga nidra, right? Do you see how these things might start to add up? They truly have changed and transformed my life. These small acts have marginal gains. And now I have people ask me all the time, Brooke, how did you get to this place where you have all these rituals and really have prioritized your self-care and your mental health? It took years to get to this point. It took years of trial and error. It took years of trying to do everything just to crash and burn and do nothing. It took years of finding the things that actually serve me and my mind, body, and spirit and leaving the rest. It took years. So start small, remain consistent. You will get those marginal gains. But know that it took me a long time to get to this place. So you're being mindful of how you're starting your day, you're recharging your battery throughout the day, and then you're going to start to have some sleep hygiene at night. And all of that is designed to help you fall asleep and stay asleep. Now, I also want to talk about that natural sunlight in your eyes. So, first thing, not first thing, but within the first hour that you wake up, if you can go outside and get some indirect sunlight in your eyes, that's going to fire up your circadian rhythm, which is going to start to tell your mind and body as the sun rises, it's time to get up. And when the sun sets, it's time for sleep and rest. And so, besides closing that stress cycle and having good sleep hygiene, I think the third biggest key thing is getting this sunlight therapy and really understanding your circadian rhythm. The Huberman Lab is a great podcast where he is a neuroscientist and he breaks down the science of like why this matters. But he says, and Andrew Huberman is like a genius. He says that getting this natural indirect daylight in your eyes first thing or within the first hour is like in his top 3 tips for better sleep. Do you see how like all these little things play into it? It's like we want to make sure that we've moved the energy and emotions through our body, that we've processed what's on our mind. Like another thing that I love to have people do is to brain dump their to-do list before they go to bed. Because by writing something down, that kinesthetic transfer is going to move that information from your emotional brain to your prefrontal cortex, which is your rational thinking, executive functioning part of your brain. So just by writing out your to-do list, you can actually see it for what it is. Like, yes, that's a lot to do. And also I have a plan. And then your mind has compartmentalized that so you can train your brain. Nighttime is for sleep, not for work. Nighttime is for rest, not for processing. If you stay consistent over time, you can train your mind and body to do that. So brain dump, that's another thing you could add to your sleep hygiene ritual. If you're one of those people that wakes up in the middle of the night and thinks about work and then can't go back to bed because now you're fully in work mode, you are the perfect candidate for brain dumping your to-do list before you go to bed. Okay. We do not need to be doing homework in our sleep, honey. We do not need to wake up with a jolt of panic, which is just adrenaline and cortisol. Why did you get that jolt of adrenaline and cortisol? Because you were thinking work thoughts unconsciously, you poor thing. You poor thing. And of course, because we're moms, we worry about everything. We juggle all the balls. We're like, waking up in the middle of the night, stressing about who's past due on their dentist appointment. It's like, we need to write this shit down somewhere so we're not waking up at 3 a.m. thinking about it. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to share, just as like a sidebar, is something called decision fatigue. Because this is another reason why we feel tired all the time. We are making decisions all day long, not even just during the day, but as I just mentioned, in our freaking sleep. And decision making is cognitive fuel that comes from that prefrontal cortex. And we do not have an unlimited tank of that gas either. We have a finite amount of cognitive fuel dedicated for decision making. And what you need to understand about the brain is that looking at the news is going to steal some of that decision making juice. Looking at social media, making all of the decisions, not expecting anyone else to, being readily available to answer everyone's questions and make decisions versus having boundaries of when people can come to you and pick your brain about things or ask you about things. That kind of like always being on and available as a resource to your people, that is going to lead you to decision fatigue. And so what happens is so many people wake up, they're totally exhausted, so they don't want to get out of bed. So they open up their social media apps and they start bleeding out their decision-making juice. And so this is why come 4 or 5 at night, we have no more willpower to make healthy choices. No more decision making juice to be like, I should eat healthy, or I shouldn't have that wine, or I should go on the walk, or I should have quality time with my partner, or I should check in with my kiddo about that thing. We're fried and we're done. Why? Not because we're assholes, but because we've used up all of our cognitive fuel for making decisions. We've entered into something called decision fatigue. Y'all, this is a real thing. And I think it's important that we not only research it and explore it, but we also communicate it to our partners. Because I don't know about you, but like my husband can take it personally that I have like no juice left for him. And it's not because I'm not interested in him or what's going on in his world. It's because I have nothing left to give. Right. And so what we want to do is we want to be mindful about when, where, and how we're making decisions. I do not need to be the decision maker for everything. I'm not making any major decisions before 8 a.m. People don't have access to me all day long, not my team. Nobody really has access to me all day long. My team knows like we have our meeting Tuesday morning, save most of your stuff for the meeting unless it's an emergency. I'm not going to start my day on social media, right? And so I want you guys to be mindful of that too, of like, where am I making these decisions? And is there a way that I can create some boundaries around that? So I'm not hitting decision fatigue before it's time for me to make some hard decisions, like whether or not I'm going to take a sledgehammer to my mental health and drink wine, eat brie cheese, and blindly shop Amazon. Okay. Those are my vices. I've shared that with you guys time and time again. That's a lot. I know that's a lot. I do not want you to feel overwhelmed. I want you to choose one thing that you're like, God, I've always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to do a walk in the middle of the day or a bath at night. I want you to look at your calendar right now and figure out where you're going to do it. I want you to put it on your calendar, and then I want you to communicate it to your husband, your wife, your team, your children, whoever needs to know. Mommy's time is now 6:30 to 7:30 at night. She's either going to take a bath or go on a walk. Hey team, I'm going to be taking a walk from 12 to 1 and unavailable during that time. Hey, admin, don't book me any sessions on Mondays. I don't see clients on Mondays. Or don't book me any meetings during my peak energy zone of 8 to 10 a.m. because that's when I pour into my passion projects, right? Whatever it is, just choose one small thing. And also, if all else fails, what do? We lean into radical acceptance and we just accept that now is not the time in our lives that we are going to have dewy skin because we are so well rested. Now is not the time in my life when I'm going to be the sharpest tool in the shed. Now is not the time in my life when I am going to be just over flooded with energy. Now is the time in my life when I'm going to have to be extra damn careful with where I'm spending my time, energy, and sanity, those precious jewels. Now is the time when my life is kind of unpredictable and I don't always get to determine, even when I'm doing all these healthy things, exactly how good I'm going to feel. But you see, my work is to show you that we can still show up and live amazingly full and abundant lives, even on our worst fucking days. Even when we're exhausted, even when we're hitting burnout, even when we're in a depression, even when we suffer any mental whatever, it is still possible, if we're really intentional, for us to have a full life. Because we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to feel amazing every single day. We don't have to have the highest energy in order to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. We don't have to be, just bombarded with joy and happiness to be a good mom. While I want all of those things for myself and for all of you, it's just not the reality that we live in right now. Right now, we don't know when our sleep is going to get disturbed by our children, or when someone's falling sick again, or when our partner's going to hit a rough patch, or when our team is going to struggle, or when the economy is going to shit, or when the world is going to be at war. Like, we don't know what's around the corner, and we're holding a lot through it. And so don't disqualify yourself from a beautiful life because you're tired all the time. Because you at your worst is actually still pretty effing amazing. Take small action every day to help yourself because you deserve that level of quality and care. You deserve a little bit of space in your calendar for rest. You deserve to feel a little bit better. Do we need to feel amazing all the time? No. Will we? No. But shall we take some conscious action every day to help ourselves? You betcha. That's called taking personal responsibility, which PS is a massive energetic up level. And we show up anyway. So I can be tired today, but I'm still going to show up for my husband. I'm still going to show up for my kids. I'm still going to record this podcast. I'm still going to do the things that I do. I just don't feel any shame or pressure to be perfect. And in that, I continue to move the ball forward into life and creating the life that I dream of. So, my loves, take one little piece of what I shared today and weave it into your world for the next 30 days and see how it makes you feel. May you spend your precious jewels on you getting some better sleep or some quality rest because you deserve it. I love you so much. If you haven't already, join us in the Mommy's Mental Health Matters private Facebook group. I'm doing live, free, weekly coachings there and just trying to build a safe community where we can normalize normal, embrace our messy, and talk about what this mom life is all about. Also, if you liked this episode, I would so appreciate if you would share it with a mom friend or share it in a mom group that you're a part of. I am really on a mission to serve as many mamas as possible. So the way you can support the podcast and Mommy's mental health is to share it with a friend or to follow the show, rate the show 5 stars, and give me a review. I also just love hearing your feedback because it certainly helps me shape the show. I'm also very open to topics that are hot on your mind and heart right now. So if you're in the Facebook group, you can post your struggle there. You can DM me on Instagram at Brooke Jean Unperfected. But I really want to make sure that this podcast is giving you what you need at this time in your life. And this morning when I woke up tired and thought, God damn, I'm really tired today, there might be a mama out there who is too, who would resonate with this message. So just know that this podcast is a co-creation between all of you and me in service of mommy's mental health worldwide. So take care of yourselves and there for each other. And I'll see y'all same time, same place next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Unperfected Pod. I hope this episode helped you feel a little less alone and a little more inspired to be you. If you like what we're doing here, I would so appreciate that you subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you do, share the episode on Instagram and tag me at Brooke Jean Unperfected to enter to win a 1-to-1 laser coaching session. Also, feel free to join me in my private Facebook community, Mommy's Mental Health Matters, where we continue the conversation. Thanks again for being here and see you in next week's episode.